Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Monday. Today is Monday, August 22nd, 2022. Auspicious day, auspicious date to discuss today's topic, which I thought would be fun to explore together. Moving forward, the mind, body, spirit evolution. Moving forward, mind, body, spirit evolution. And why is this important? Because clearly we are at a time of important and huge transformation in the world. I hear it every week with my clients that things are shifting, that things are not the same, that nothing is the same. And interestingly enough, for many of the people that I work with, my clients, even my colleagues, recognize this kind of disconnect between sensing that something is not the same, things have changed, things have shifted, and yet not being able to put our finger exactly on what that is. And I find it super interesting because as a somatic practitioner, it's all arising and showing up in our bodies. Certainly, there are these senses, there's this place in our mind where we are maybe confused or feeling a little bit off or not quite sure of what we are feeling, in fact. And a lot of this I have found, and even for myself, first and foremost, I had COVID in December of 2021, and I can't help but notice how much COVID itself has shifted our physiology, has somehow played around with our nervous systems. And I'm not going to talk about the studies of what COVID has taught us or has arisen in our nervous systems. Not today. I'm bringing it to the fore as an introduction to the exploration of this evolution of our time, what's going on in our minds and our bodies, being in a state of complete and huge transition. So, I wanted to explore with you a couple of questions. I thought it would be nice, to start with a couple of questions as a baseline. And the reason that I am exploring these questions is because I tend to have a penchant for theologians, theology, anything that comes from the spiritual realm. I find it super helpful for me to help me navigate times such as these. I have been working diligently over the past several years, few years for sure, but I would say over the past 5 years, really delving. Hey, good morning, Elise. Thank you for being here. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. So, salut Karine. Good morning. My niece is here this morning. Hi, honey. I'm glad you're here. Merci d'être là. So, I want to dig in a little bit from this, from this spiritual perspective of what's going on in the world. How are we to move forward as individuals and as a community when in fact we are more isolated and removed from one another than ever before? Yes, things have gotten into a different space, meaning that we are more together than we were, let's say, during COVID. We're not quarantining anymore, certainly not as much. And still, because of this time that we've gone through with COVID and this component, this essence, this reality of quarantining, of being by ourselves, seems to have made it more difficult to move forward and be social again and to connect with people again because of this kind of crash that came in called COVID, where we all had to go back into our little apartments or homes, or certainly not socializing as we once were. And what I found is that this relationship with COVID has actually separated us in a way that is a sense, body felt sense experience, where those of us who are introverts, people who are introverts, will tend to go inside even more. Those of us who are extroverts are dying to go back out there. And at the same time, something has shifted. It's not the same. I would say that I'm a serious combination of both. And I think many people are both introvert, extrovert. But now that we're back into this new normal, into this new mechanism of moving forward, what happens mind body wise? Yeah, thanks, Elise. As if our collective fascia has thickened and stiffened, contracted. Exactly. So it's kind of that membranous tissue that I'm talking about. Like we're trying to get through the membrane, and at the same time, we're kind of bouncing back in. There's something important that has shifted, and one of the things that I'm finding is that instead of being able to come together to look at issues and problems as a community, what's happened is we've separated more into dichotomous perspectives, reinforcing the idea, the ideology, the way of communicating from right and wrong, or yes and no, or this or that, instead of having a more communal, integrated approach to seeing things from the perspective of, oh, I can see how you thought that. It didn't happen like that for me. I didn't view it like that. And I can see how you might have interpreted this in this way. So what I'm finding is that instead of becoming more integrated or supporting one another from a communal place, this COVID quarantine separation has expanded the space between us. And we're kind of either back or in a new way in a conversation of oppositions that we're seeing from a space of defense, that we feel we need to defend ourselves. Now, I know this is not a new concept. And at the same time, I'm wondering, how might we be able to integrate, to really work together from a place of exploration, of asking questions from an open-ended perspective, instead of rushing at the jugular of the other in a state of defense so that I get to say my piece too, and no, you are wrong. It's not working anymore. It's just not working. We're continuously lessening the amazing use of our brains. We're continuously lessening our level of consciousness of how it's possible to be together in space and explore and ask difficult questions and dare to ask difficult questions, or dare to say something that might be out of the norm. And the way that we ask is what is so important, so that we ourselves don't show up as defensive or on the attacking side. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we want to continue to integrate mindful communication, to stop and think before we assume that we are right and that the other person is wrong. We may have an opinion that the other person is wrong. I'm there. I understand that. Me too. I have opinions. I think that some things are right and some things are wrong. However, if we are to move forward, if we are to evolve, mind, body, body, mind, if we're going to free our bodies of constriction, of what Elise was sharing, of the thickening of our inner lining, of our connective tissue, if we are going to free ourselves from that and move into a higher level of consciousness, we might want to start exploring how other people view things, how other people see things, and not immediately be on the defensive of my belief is the right belief. And so if my belief is not the right belief and your belief is not the right belief, is there a place in the middle where we can meet and discuss our different beliefs? Does it have to be that I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong? And this is really where I want to go with these two questions today that I put out in the comments. So anybody have any comments so far? Comments, questions, insights that you'd like to share before I go into delving into the two questions that I am offering to explore together? All right. So I thought it would be interesting to explore this great theologian's questions, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. He was a theologian, a professor, an author, and he asked two questions that I thought might be really helpful and insightful at this time in our lives, in relationship to mind-body alignment, in relationship to positioning ourselves at this time of great separation, of where we are still in a space of looking at the world from I'm right, you're wrong. And I'll tell you why, because it's easier to do it that way. It's much more difficult to talk about integration. It's much more difficult to ask the question of, okay, to pause, take a moment and say, wow, I never thought of it that way. Ha ha ha. Yes, that's great, Elise. Thinking about Aikido as a way to interact and keep things moving. Beautiful. Movement. To continue to keep things moving. Exactly. So energetically, right? How are we moving through space so that things keep moving? Because when there's a hard stop, when you say, no, you're wrong, that's the end of it. There's no, I mean, and understand what I'm saying here. I'm not talking about things that are actually wrong, like killing or abusing or hitting, or that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about developing an essence, a center towards mindful communication, to ask questions, to dare to ask questions, and to share something that might be uncomfortable in a way that is mindful and non-attacking. And this is why I wanted to delve a little bit in Dr. Thurman's work and asking these two questions of where am I going? Where are you going in your life? Which direction are you going into? And for many people that I work with, my clients, if I ask that question, there's a little bit of a pause, like, where am I going? What does my life mean? What is this all about? Because the other thing that occurred over the past few years is that it threw us in a slew of questioning, like what's happening to the world? Like a lot of people came to the fore, woke up, right? A lot of us decided that we're going to actually get online, speak up, offer programs, join groups, reach out and connect. As much energy and time and focus as it might take, I am not finding that there is an option. We have to be able to bring ourselves forth in the way that we can, whether it's as your role as a mother, as a sister, a friend, a niece, a cousin, a teacher, Any of these roles, how are you bringing yourself to the fore so that in your immediate community that you're starting to make a difference, which could be the answer to where am I going? Where are you going in your work? What's possible in the area for shift and evolution in the environment in which you find yourself? And would that require for you to speak up mindfully, to ask questions about how things are done, and perhaps even initiate something that could help to either change the culture, to embrace another way of thinking about something? These things require for us to go beyond ourselves. And I think that's what's exciting about being human, to go beyond what's expected of ourselves. So you might have to ask yourself that question: where am I going? Do you have a plan? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. I like to do the quarterly thing. I have a plan for the next 3 months. I have a plan for the next 6 months. I have a plan for the next 9 and 12 months. And it's not just because I run my own business. I have personal plans because life, from what I'm experiencing, can be brutally hard. Life is hard. And how do I continue to re-energize myself to get into this state of curiosity? Where am I going? What am I doing? To continue to ask the open-ended questions. Because what starts to happen as you do this, you start to get a different answer from your body, from your mind. You start to shift how you're feeling in your body when you're asking better questions. So, where am I going? I really want to invite you to contemplate this question. Yes. What are your values, Elise? Does that match with the question of where am I going? So maybe what your values are is the journey, the path towards where am I going? Are your values leading you into where you are going? Exactly. Excellent. So like Elise, maybe for some of you, your values are what are going to drive you, invite you, incite you to move forward. Where are you going based on your values in life? And what might your values look like? What do you believe in? What is important to you in your life? So if you have children and you find that the environment in which your children is playing or living or being schooled in might need some support in expanding a program and doing things differently, you would want to get involved with that. You would decide that there's something that I can do. Because once we start to get excited and involved about the environment in which we find ourselves, that shifts us physiologically. We change, our energy changes, we get more excited, we get more dopamine moving through our system. And so when we're excited, we tend to do things that bring us more happiness. And a lot of the time, if we are happier, there tends to be a sense of ease in your life, in the way that you move through life. So the exact correlation to that is that you're less angry. You're spending less time on thinking about what you don't have and more time investing in what you do have, which of course can lead us into the practice of gratitude. Elise says, my values drive my goals, and my questions are about how my goals align with my values. Excellent. So Elise, give us an example of one of your values. Happiness for me is contingent on my path and my values being in alignment. Happiness for me is contingent on my path. So how do you get happy? How do you maintain happiness in your life? So yes, there is a practice to maintaining happiness, isn't there? So how do you get happy in your life? How does that move? How does that work with your values? Is happiness a value for you? And how do you maintain this energy of being happy? Because happiness truly, truly, truly is a choice. And you have to practice it. It's like anything else. Personal and professional development make me happy. Great. Exactly. Okay. So the more you are in personal and professional development, the more you are happy. And so, how might you bring your relationship to personal and professional development into your workspace, for example? So what I'm suggesting here when I'm talking about where am I going is to really also ask the question, what am I doing in the area that I'm in right now that I can help to nurture, to expand upon, to grow, to improve the quality of life in my immediate environment of where I'm working. So because you are really connected to personal and professional development, there are surely some ways that you can integrate your experience into your work environment as a community. And that's why I'm bringing in that question of where am I going? How are you moving forward in life to sustain you in a way that grows more happiness? So, where am I going? Second question is, who will go with me? Who will go with me? So, right now, think about people in your life. And when you are thinking about the direction of your dreams, the direction in which you want to go, to grow, to live, who's going to go with you? Who are you going to bring alongside you? Who's going to follow you? Or not follow, but be by your side? Can you think of those people who will support you, who will encourage you? And I think that this is a really valuable question because that changes in life. The people who we surround ourselves with changes. We change. So inevitably, people that we hang with, that walk with us, also change. So when you think today, who will walk with you? Who will be at your side as you continue on this path to growth and personal evolution, personal development? Who will walk with you? Because it's easy to do this alone, I would say. It's easy to do this alone, but not so easy to do it with others. I have always found it harder to work with others because you have to consider other people's dynamics, other people's beliefs, even if we love them, even if they are our friends, even if they are insightful, even if they support us. Human beings, we have our quirks, we have our ticks, we have our awkwardnesses. So as we move along onto the path of our life and we think about who might be coming along with us, who shows up for you, like right now, write it down. You don't have to share it with me, but certainly make a note of it. And if you don't have anyone who would walk with you, if you don't have, or if you have one person, you might want to get 2 or 3 or 4 people. How do you start to practice that? How do you start to nurture that in your life? How do you make better friends? How do you cultivate friendship? How do you keep friendship moving forward in your life? And those friends and those people will change undoubtedly over time. That's part of the evolution of the mind, body, mind evolution, because we change. And at some point in our lives, sometimes we might breathe out people that are very close. We might decide to take a little space from them because we've changed, because our vision has changed, because where am I going has changed. Does this make sense? I hope this makes sense. Um, give me an amen or a thumbs up in the chat to let me know you're there and that it's making sense to you. I want to read a little piece called The Sound of the Genuine. And that is a talk that was given by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. And I wanted to share that. Yes, this is a tough one for me. The one about who will go with you, Elise? Who will go with you? Yeah, I agree. It is a tough one because sometimes we have people around us, but a lot of us are loners. And that's what I'm seeing in my work. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing in my work is that people who are loners have tend to become even more loner and focus primarily on work and focus primarily on themselves without really shifting the vision of where they're going and who might be going with them. So, yeah, I get it. So, here's a little piece, The Sound of the Genuine by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. There is in every person something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in herself. There is in you something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. Nobody like you has ever been born, and no one like you will ever be born again. You are the only one. And if you miss the sound of the genuine in you, you will be a cripple all the rest of your life because you will never be able to get a scent on who you are. He continues, do you remember in the book, and the book is the Christian Bible in this case, do you remember in the book, Jesus and his disciples were going through the hills, and there appeared in the turn of the road a man who was possessed of devils, as they thought. In the full moon, when the great tidal waves of energy swept through his organism, and he became as 10 men, screaming through the hills like an animal in pain, and then he met Jesus on the road. And Jesus asked him one question. Who are you? What's your name? And for a moment, his tilted mind righted itself, and he said, that's it. I don't know. There are legions of me, and they riot in the streets. If I only knew, then I would be whole. So the burden of what I have to say to you is, what is your name? What is your name? Who are you? And can you find a way to hear the sound of the genuine in yourself? There are so many noises going on inside you, so many echoes of all sorts, so many internalizing of the rumble and the traffic, the confusions, the disorders by which your environment is peopled, that I wonder if you can get still enough to get still enough, not quiet enough, still enough to hear rumbling up from your unique and essential idiom, the sound of the genuine in you. I don't know if you can, but this is your assignment. So I thought this was really great as I was doing some research to ponder and ask myself that question. Who and what is the genuine in myself? Who and what is the genuine in myself? And do I have the courage? Do I have the courage to speak up in a way that is kind, that is mindful, that is open, that is heart-centered, and ask questions, ask hard questions, and also offer insight into what I might be seeing, viewing in the world? And on the path to me developing this genuine inquiry towards myself, who am I bringing with me? Who's walking alongside me? Who are those people in my life that would be also interested in this inquiry of the genuine of who they are? And when I think of genuine, I also think about my strengths, my qualities, what I'm good at. Because I think that through the pursuit of focusing on what's real, what's good about me, to start at the baseline, what's real, what's good about me, not what's not good about me. That's so easy. That's so easy to find. I have so many things about me that is not good, that I would criticize, that I would minimize, belittle. And that's just human nature. And once we can tap in to this human nature, to the mind going into the glass half empty, the negativity perspective of who we are, if I can just put that aside for a moment and really focus on the good in me, what am I good at? What's naturally something that arises within me when I can put myself over there and I can have a conversation with me and I can look at myself and I'm choosing to look at myself from a perspective of positivity, of growth. Who is this woman? Who is this person? What's great about her? What do I love about her? Is she curious? Is she inventive? Is she energetic? And I tap into the qualities that I can see in myself. And then, because those qualities, as I focus on them, they tend to help me bring up what I might do naturally and well in the world. What's natural for me because of the qualities I see in myself. And I'm not talking from an egoic perspective, not an ego thing, more of a deeper sense of being with myself, like who is this person? And naturally tapping into our qualities will give us roadways, will open us up, and can be very useful companions on the question of where am I going? Where am I going and who's coming with me? Who do you want in your life? What type of person do you want to accompany you in your life? What type of conversations do you want to have? What would you like to explore? And to start to put that out, from a very internal place, to ask who might show up in my life, to start to ask your guides, your angels, the energetic source of the universe, who might show up in my life to assist me in my travels, who might be a great companion for me, who will challenge me, who will ask hard questions, whom I can riff with. And to really start to see how you can also complement and contribute to the relationship. Because I really believe that this is where we are headed in this world, is that we must learn to become better at living in community with one another, to banish, to eliminate the blame, shame, the pointing fingers that I'm right, you're wrong, to practice these. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it. God knows I'm not. And I keep seeing, because of the work that I do, how people are wanting to have these components in their lives, to live more harmoniously, to be in relationship with one another. And it's really hard because we have huge egos, all of us. And what I mean by egos is that we're very opinionated. We believe that we are right, even if we don't really consciously think that we're right. There's a way that you're living that makes you right. And that's okay. It's just that the other person is not necessarily wrong. The other person is not necessarily wrong. So, how do we now start to work with this in a pragmatic way? Every day, I encourage you to sit 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Practice the work of internal reflection. Sit with yourself. Get to know yourself at this point in your life, at this time in history, in her story. Things have changed. We are not relating to one another in the same way. I feel like there is a heaviness, even with my neighbors when we meet and we cross paths. And, people will say the regular greeting, "Hi, how are you?" "I'm fine. How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." This type of very polite type of greeting. And for me, I sense this energetic pull, a heaviness. People are walking through the muck. We're walking through the sludge together. And it's so much easier to walk through sludge and muck holding hands, being able to lean on one another, being able to support one another. So my invitation to you is to take some time to develop this internal inquiry. Who am I? What am I good at? Where am I going? And who is coming with me? And who do I want to come with me? And don't be afraid to expand from that question. Let yourself go far out. You might even create who you would like to come with you. Again, what type of people, energy, where do you want to go? That will make a difference in who's coming with you. And who's coming with you. What I mean by that also is energetically, is in your heart. It's not necessarily a geographical place. It could be, but I'm talking more about the internal sense of moving forward, evolving humanitarily, in groups, in communication, in learning to develop a better ear, in learning to develop a heart-centered hearing from the heart. I know for me, it works every time. If I can just drop my beliefs, my ego of what I'm expecting or what I would like to hear or how I would like people to act. If I just drop all of that, if I just leave that all at the door, I find that my heart-centered space is much more adept at communicating, because I'm not in a state of having to say something. I am more in a state of holding space and listening. And from that space of listening, which is, by the way, a huge tool for mindful communication, in a space of listening, holding space, and also, it's not just holding space and listening, it's not having my mind working as the other person is speaking with me, that I'm fully present. I'm not thinking as the other person is speaking with me. I'm fully present to them with an open heart. Then the exchange becomes very natural, because I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm just fully present to this other person. And then you will also meet people like that with you, where you'll be able to express yourself and you feel like the other person is fully present with you. The more we practice it ourselves, the tendency is it tends to show up in our lives more and more. And yes, also we have to find and look for those people. So if you have people like that in your life already, who tend to hold space for you, and they're not perfect, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but they're already there. They're people you love, you are in communication with. Cultivate, nurture those relationships, deepen those relationships. You don't need a ton of people, but a few close, solid people who are practicing these things, who take the time to sit with themselves and contemplate or write or have a vision of what's possible, what's next for them. Because if we stay stuck in the muck of what's happening and the news, and this, we've been talking about this forever. This is nothing new. And now it seems like it's taken a turn, a shift. There's a deeper sense of the muck, because globally it's more complicated. We have more difficult relationships between countries, political parties, organization, establishments, universities, medical centers. It seems like everything has gotten a little bit more complicated. And so we're all trying to find our balance in this space. And what I'm suggesting is, let's start with us. Let's start with us. Our daily practice to sit and to be in communion with one another, starting with the self. Be in communion with yourself. Have conversations with yourself. Look at the glass half full of who you are. Focus on your qualities. Focus on where you're going. Where do you want to go? What do you want to experience in your life? For me, an example of that is moving more and more towards nature, to expand my relationship with nature. Because when I'm in nature, I feel more whole. I feel more grounded. I feel calmer. I feel better surrounded as I am being witnessed by nature. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope that this is helpful. And I wanted to remind you of the name of the passage I read was Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. He's written several books. He's now deceased. But his work is really interesting. And it's like those deeper thinking types of people that I love to explore, because all of the ones that I like to use as examples or share with you are always the ones who have a deeper connection with spirit, that there is something beyond the immediacy of what's right in front of us, of the material, of the life of our beingness in this moment, of how we work, of how we move through life, this connection with spirit, with nature, and to explore those, to give ourselves this precious time of contemplation, because we can, because we have the capacity to do that as human beings. So thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate your time. I will see you again next week, same place, same time. I am launching my new website this week, so I am super stoked about that. I'm going to post it pretty much everywhere. Haha, yay to spirit, Elise, exactly. And if you have anybody in your life who you're bringing with you in your life that you think might benefit to this group, please invite them to join us. The more people that we have in a like-minded way, the better we can have communication and exchange, which is really what I would like this to become more and more as we move forward. So please ask people to join the Art of Alignment Creative Leadership Group page. I will get in contact with them, check in with them, and then invite them to join, and we can grow our base. We can grow who shows up here and support one another as a community. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.